Welcome, everybody, out today. My name is Daniel Wakefield. I am the founder of Top Tier Headshots. I'm a headshot photographer and expression coach and interested in all things entrepreneurship. And I am going to allow my guest to introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Seth Killian, and I am a revenue operations professional in a private equity-backed business-to-business company. I have, for the last year or so, spent a lot of time on LinkedIn just giving people career advice based off of real-life experience. And I spend a lot of my time coaching younger professionals or professionals that are in the middle of their career and trying to figure out what their next chapter is on what is the best move for them. And so I'm excited to be here today and have an enriching conversation and hopefully deliver value to everyone.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Why don't you start by just telling us how it came about that you've gotten so interested in just all of this career stuff, thinking about career architecture, you call it, and writing about it and coaching other people on it. Just talk to us how you got into that.
Yeah. Well, there was a short little job that I had for about 2 years, and it was from 2008 to 2010, where I was, in essence, I was sales for a subcontractor. And this was back in North Carolina, which is where I'm from. And I was working for a company where I was getting their blueprints, their plans for jobs that were in the pre-construction phase, and I was estimating and taking my measurements and putting my bid together, and then I would go out and I would try to win as many jobs as I could. So it was like one part hard science. I had to learn hard skills of the trade, and I was also learning sales skills, although I didn't know it at the time because I didn't have that in my title. And I really got to love just the concept of understanding complicated plans and blueprints and learning the science of that because there's its own language there. I mean, architects, they go to school and they get their degree and their certification, and it's a multi-year long discipline. I considered that route for a while, never did it. It just didn't work out that way, but it kind of gave me a love of all things architecture and design. And so now, as I'm a little bit later in my career, and I found myself wanting to give back more and just help younger professionals figure out the stuff that, quite frankly, no one was there to help me with, and also help individuals who maybe, the last time that they applied for a job was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And they've sort of lost touch with the job market and landscape of
Mm-hmm.
today
Yep.
to help those individuals as well. They're by no means early in their career, but they just need help learning the language of looking for a job in 2024.
Hmm.
So that's where I kind of got the nomenclature of career design or career architecture that I use so often. And I found myself in 2014 at the tail end of an 8-year stretch in a completely different industry that I no longer loved. Once I did love it, but I had grown to change and my life had shifted. Basically, I spent 8 years in the food and beverage slash hospitality area. I actually worked at the American Airlines Center in downtown Dallas, where the Mavericks and the Stars play. So it's a sports arena, an entertainment venue, and I started as a suite runner. So I worked in the luxury suites department. I was carrying pans of chicken tenders and hot wings out to the suites, just trying to not bump into people or drop the food or take it to the wrong luxury suite, and eventually became what they called like a pantry coordinator or a pantry supervisor. So I was in charge of some of the beverage rooms, and then I became a floor supervisor and worked in a lot of different areas. They sent me through their year-long quality rotation program where I worked every single position in the arena. It's a lot of fun, actually.
Mm-hmm.
One night I was a bar back. One night I'm on the receiving docks. The next night I am deep frying, I didn't eat chicken tenders for like 3 years afterwards. I just got fed up with it. And then the next night I was sitting with the accountants learning advanced Excel functions. It was just a full quality rotation. I went to management school, was promoted into management, made the shift from hourly to salary, That was actually good. It meant that I was working a lot more. My hourly rate actually went down, but it was good for me because it brought stability, which
Mm,
is what I needed at that point in my career. And met a girl, got married, and right away, she's pregnant, son is born, and all the major milestones for the first year. First teeth, first steps, first words, first eating of solids, first everything. I missed it.
mm,
And I remember it was the holiday season 2023 heading or 2013 heading into 2014, and my wife was saying, is this what the future looks like? Is
mm,
this what it's all how it's always going to be? And so I began a process of looking that eventually, through a lot of pain and frustration and hard-earned lessons, led me to switch careers. And this was about 10 years ago. And I started as an SDR, a sales development representative, cold calling,
mm,
setting appointments for a business to business software company.
mm,
That period of transition was so hard and so stressful, and was a period where I was watching savings dwindle.
mm.
And I knew I was doing the right thing, but it really did not feel that way. And I felt that I was sort of charging into battle, and I didn't have a gun, I didn't have any armor.
Mm,
And I just said to myself, I never want to let this happen again.
mm,
And so I began building a playbook that really allowed me to have a network, have a resume, get on LinkedIn, know my options, begin sculpting and intentionally crafting what I thought my future would look like, learning skills on purpose,
mm.
not just on accident based off of whatever project I felt like signing up
Right,
for.
right.
And so that really was a renaissance for me in my career. And now that I've been at that for 10 years, I decided that it was time to get a little bit more public and formal
Mm,
in how I'm helping people. For years, I have been having private offline conversations at the dinner table, at the coffee table, in Starbucks with friends and family, give them my advice. And for most of them, it works out. And for some of them, they don't do it, and they
right.
still stay in the situation where and that's okay. That's just where they're at right now. We're still friends. And so I thought, let's go big with this. Let's go broad. Let's
Mm,
start telling people about why this is so important, because I find that many people get thirsty first and then they dig their well.
mm.
Too late. It's
Yep.
too late at that point. Right. And so that's really what this is all about, is it's a proactive mindset that says, plant the tree before you need the shade, dig the well before you're thirsty,
Mm,
build the bridge of relationships before you need to walk across them.
mm.
And that's really the main thrust of the message.
Yeah. And you see, I've seen people, I'm sure you've seen it as well, go to college, get that degree, graduate, get that job, and kind of have the mindset of, well, this is the career. This is where I am for the
Yep.
rest of my life. And then something happens and they get laid off and they weren't expecting it. And now all of a sudden it's a crisis instead of maybe an opportunity. And it seems like what you are teaching people and sharing with people is being able to see those opportunities, but in order to see them and take advantage of them, you've got to be ready for them.
That's right. It's not if, but when disruption comes to you,
Hmm.
and you need to be sort of in a fighting stance, keep your dukes up, sort of, that's the way that I think of it. It's readiness. Are you ready to respond to whatever the market throws at you? The way that I've always thought about it is, I remember back to 2001, before the towers fell, we had the dot-com crash. And,
Right.
some folks listening may not even know what that is because they might not have even been alive at that time, you know, but the dot-com crash was massively disruptive. And that's whenever I think I was 16 or 17 at the time. And that's whenever I first started paying attention to the fact that, wait a second, things that are totally outside of the local market, outside of my family, outside of my zone of interest right here and right now, can impact my life. Because I think I was just getting to the point where my maturity level and my age made me think of things beyond my immediate horizon.
Right.
And what did we see immediately afterwards? At least in my hometown, blue collar furniture manufacturing hub. Every family has multiple people in every generation that grew up in the furniture factory. Well, those jobs are being shipped overseas.
Mm,
It's 2002, 2003. I'm going to community college, busting out some credits before I transfer out to college out here in Dallas, Texas, which is what brought me out here. Surrounded by people who are 3, 4 decades older than me, desperately trying to upskill themselves and learn these newfangled personal computers. But it was difficult for them because, decades in the furniture factory working production had meant that they were geared towards one way of work,
yeah.
the physical production of physical goods. That's great. Our economy runs on that. But they were desperately trying to become knowledge workers in a world that had no patience for them. And my
Yeah.
heart went out for them. And I looked at it and I said, I'm not going to let that happen to me.
Yeah.
I do not want that to happen to me, but it actually did.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the
Yeah.
story that I told earlier, it actually did happen to me.
Yeah.
And I do think, to your point earlier, that people have to be ready for this sort of stuff. What do we see now? Think of 2008 and the housing crisis. Think of the rise of killer apps like the Airbnb and the Uber of things. I mean, right now, there's some kid and she's in her college room building an app that's going to disrupt the entire industry.
Hmm.
Are you ready? What about regulation? What about company merger and acquisition? What about, you joined a company to work for boss A and she gets let go or she decides to move on for another opportunity. And now another boss who you did not know and you did not interview comes in and they don't like you anymore. You
Yeah.
got to be ready for these sorts of things. What about the next COVID or the next lockdown, right? We've got to be in a state of readiness in our career. And that's why I preach what I preach, because I see people getting hit left, right, and center from disruption, and they're just not ready for it. And it takes them 6 months to get back on their feet, when in reality, if you had prepped and maintained things, I feel that 6 months could be shrunk to 3 months, or maybe even 6 weeks, I dare say.
Mm.
That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So fantastic. Great hearing those points about kind of the why behind um, just what you're up to. But tell us a little bit about the how in terms of your own personal experience. How are you, maybe some specific ways of how you are practicing what you're preaching?
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, this is right out of my playbook, so it's what I'm counseling and coaching other people to do. But these are the lessons that I learned over the last 10 years. Is I looked at it and said, um, when I was let go, and I was trying to find something new quickly and desperately with a wife that I'd immigrated here from Mexico, and she's taking care of our 9-month old or 10-month old at home. I'm thinking, I can't even find my resume. I didn't even know what LinkedIn was.
Right.
Interviewed in years. So all of the things that should be, well lubricated, functioning, and humming along, were just covered in rust. And
Mm.
so the things that I say is, you always need to keep a running file. It can be an email to yourself, it can be on your notepad, it can be in the notes app on your phone, whatever works for you. You need to keep track of the projects that you're working on. You don't have to boil the ocean here and make it like your career diary entry at the end of every week. You just need a bullet point style list entry of the things that you're working on. That way, if and when you need to update your resume,
Mm.
you can snap into it without it being a 15-hour mental exercise where you have to pause everything around you and create this thing from scratch
Right.
again. I also recommend that people be updating their resume every year. Look, I've been at my company now for 2 years. I love what I'm doing. It's great. I update my resume every year. I'm happy there, but I'm updating my resume every year. It is
Hmm.
a great habit to stay in,
Mm.
just like keeping those muscles warm, keeping the joints moving. That's an important piece. But I think also it's the concept of interviewing. You know, if you only do something once every 5 to 8 years, you're gonna stink when you do it,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So role playing that, what that looks like, we need to have a narrative. We need to be our own public relations ambassador in terms of how we tell the story of our career. What I was able to tell you just a few seconds ago in terms of, what I did at the American Airlines Center and what I've been spending the last 10 years doing, 10 years ago, I could not have told that story that way. It took many times of me telling that story, eliminating unnecessary words, just like a comedian is going to work on a bit,
Mm,
or a sales rep whenever he's delivering the corporate overview, vision deck to a prospect. They're going to be very economical with their words. They're going to be powerful with what it is that they're saying and focus on getting the point across. And so I think that we need to have these sound bites or these narratives in place for our own career and the results that we've produced. That allows the interview process to go a lot more smoothly than what it otherwise would. I'll never forget the first interview that I had. It was to be a general manager of a Jason's Deli. Okay. Uh, I'm so glad I didn't get that position, by the way, because I felt like I had to stay in food and beverage because that's all I knew at that
mm,
point. Had no concept of getting into software sales or sales operations. So I'm interviewing, and I could not tell her what I did. She said, "So tell me a little bit more about what it means to manage 144 luxury suites and a team of 60 people." And I was flat-footed. I
mm.
was completely unprepared. I had not done dry runs with my family. I had not practiced in the mirror or on my wife or with the dog or to the brick wall. I hadn't done any sort of prep. I just figured I'd show up and wing it, bro. And so I think staying in shape, even if it's I'm going to tell myself the story of that section of my career out loud to get good at hearing it. I
Mhm.
might record myself and play it back. And as uncomfortable as our own voice makes us, it's an important
Yep.
exercise to go through because it keeps us ready to go. If two different professionals are at a 10 out of 10 in terms of their technical skills, right? Their ability to write code, but one is at a 7 out of 10 in terms of their communication skills, and the other one is 3 out of 10. Which one's probably going to get the promotion? Which one's probably going to get the advancement? Which one's probably going to get the attention, the
Yep.
assistance? The one who has the ability to communicate it more effectively. So I think that that's really important as well. And then another piece would be LinkedIn. LinkedIn domination. LinkedIn is not just for business to business appointment setting agencies to sell their services or recruiters to connect with the whole world so they can syndicate their recs out to the market. It's not just for ghostwriter copywriters. It's for the end user professional, the 9 to 5
Mhm.
W2 worker who is in the trenches every day. You need to be connected with a ton of people. Your profile needs to be looking really, really good. And odds are, even if you feel you have nothing to say, you should probably try to put something out there a couple times a month. A picture of what you're working on, a couple of lessons from a couple of applications from something that you've just learned, recognition of a coworker who recently went above and beyond. These are great things to do that keeps you active and out there in your career. Even if you're not looking, how wonderful would it be to experience new requests for jobs to come into you, those unsolicited offers from recruiters, even when you don't have that little toggle switch turned on your career? That is a wonderful thing to have because so many people don't have that when they need it.
Mhm.
Get your online presence to a point to where you have it always on tap. You can just pull it and get it out whenever you need it. That's the goal. So those will be 3 areas where I would start. We could talk about joining tradecraft communities. We could talk about pursuing mentors. We could talk about collaboration opportunities like this, like we're doing right now. We could talk about all kinds of different things, but those would be 3 areas to get started. Keep your resume up to date, practice your interviewing skills, and just you got to dominate LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right?
So I feel like, I we met on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and I personally have, over the last few years in building my own business, have found tremendous value in building a personal brand, networking. So many younger people, though, I'm talking like current college age people that overall are, they're very well versed with social media, being online, having a presence. And yet, when I talk to them about LinkedIn, it's, oh, that's just if you want to put a resume out there. And
Right.
that's all that it is. And,
Oh
and,
gosh.
um, so, I don't know if there's so much of a question in this, unless you have any thoughts about, how do you take somebody who's maybe in college, fresh into their career, and just show them what an amazing tool
Mhm.
that LinkedIn is, for them.
Yeah, it's a great way to pick up internships as well, right? So I'm thinking of the interns that we have working at our company now, the interns that over the past couple of years have filtered their way through my team. It's a great way to get out there and get to connecting with people. You're going to eventually want it. It's going to take a while for seeds that are planted to sprout and grow and to come to fruition. Start that process earlier. I'll wait to get on LinkedIn until I need a job. Sounds to me kind of like saying, I'll wait to eat healthy stuff and exercise until after my first heart attack.
Right. Yeah.
We could have prevented all that pain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen people, and kind of back to one of your earlier points, I've seen people who have been working at a large corporation, maybe they're a team leader, whatever position they happen to have, and they have done the work of not just promoting their company's brand, but they're really building what we would call your own personal brand of, we have a brand, it's a reputation of ourselves, and we can build that on places like LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
so I've seen these people that they've done the work, they've networked, they've grown an amazing network. They post fairly regularly things that they're learning,
Yeah.
questions that they have, all of this valuable content, and then they get laid off because
Hmm.
it's a big corporation.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like this impersonal, like 15% of people are being laid off. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, they get laid off and they put it out there, going to be looking for a new opportunity, and it seems like within a week or two they are posting, this new opportunity.
Right.
And why was that? Was that an accident, or is that because they
Yeah.
did the work to build up their visibility and their personal brand? They
Yeah.
added value to a lot of people, and all of a sudden they're, a free agent, and
Mm-hmm.
they people see like, we want this guy on our
That's right.
team. And I'm
That's
sure it's
right.
the recruiters reaching out and all of the other, opportunities that come their way. So
Yeah.
that just kind of goes back to, it's not just, hey, it's there when I need it, but like you said, being prepared and building up that brand. And it's not just a new job opportunity. There's networking opportunities, strategic partnerships for business owners,
Yeah.
you name it, it's happening
Yeah.
on
An
LinkedIn.
advisor role. I mean, there's
Yeah.
anything really. I think there's two things that I would add to that. So if you see someone who was caught up in a layoff, and it seems as if just a couple of weeks later they're just tumbling right into their next job, and it's like, oh, it seems so effortless for you.
Right.
Well, two things. Number one, the more active you are on LinkedIn and the more robust and complete and just built out your LinkedIn profile is, and the more connections you have and the more frequently you post, the better off you're going to surface in LinkedIn Recruiter.
Hmm.
That is a tool a lot of people forget about, right? So you have LinkedIn ads, you have Sales Navigator, you have LinkedIn Recruiter, you have just good old LinkedIn Premium for us regular folks, and then you have everybody else using just normal non-paid LinkedIn. And that's fine, by the way. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. I would encourage you to get into one of the premium tiers as quickly as you can, but don't worry about it. If you can't stomach the extra expense right now, that's okay. Inside of LinkedIn Recruiter, they have the ability, just like you go to Amazon.com and you use the faceted navigation off to the left-hand side, the attributes and things like that, to refine your search. Ditto for candidates. Show
Mhm.
me ones that are already connected with people who work here. Show me ones that are open to work. Show me ones that are only passively looking. Show me ones that have 7 out of the 10 required skills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The ones with more skills, the ones with more connections, the ones that are posting frequently float to the top. So likely that individual, this fictitious individual that you're talking about, by virtue of the fact that they're building their personal brand and also slinging a little love to their company while they're at it,
Yeah.
they're going to get more recruiter eyeballs. Don't fight the funnel, feed the funnel. The
Yep.
more you get into the top of the funnel,
Hmm.
by math, the more get to the middle, the more get to the bottom and fall
Yep.
out, right? Don't fight that principle. Feed that principle. You want the eyeballs. The way that I think of it is owning the river bend. Imagine a nice sinuous river. I spent some time in South America, and right there, the Amazon River, it's just got these nice big bulbous bends to it and everything. Imagine owning an entire river bend and setting up a bunch of passive fishing traps to just catch them. You don't have to physically be there casting your line into the water or running a net through with a boat. You have passive traps that are set up and always catching things. And the only thing you have to do is go and collect and then do it again in another day or so.
Yep.
That's what I think of whenever I talk about building your personal brand online. The second thing that I would add to that is likely that person was able to step into or launch into that next chapter in their career so quickly because they already had that
Mhm.
relationship warmed up. And where better to do that than the 24/7 global networking event that is LinkedIn,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. And just as somebody who is an entrepreneur, and a lot of my clients are B2B clients or B2C, but they're business professionals. um, I would say at least 60% of my new clientele comes from LinkedIn.
That's
and
crazy.
and it's like, it's building that personal brand, putting my work out there, learning how to use the platform in an effective way where it doesn't come off as like salesy, but I'm just trying to network and add value and do all the things that you talked about, and that people are just reaching out to me like crazy.
Yeah.
But it was months and months of hard work and consistency and doing all of those things that has led to those opportunities. So it wasn't just like, hey, I showed up on LinkedIn and all of a sudden I'm
Right.
getting clients. That I some of my coaching clients that I have, I encourage them to use LinkedIn. And when they tell me, oh, I'm having a slow month, and I say, how's your LinkedIn strategy going? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a little bit slow
Yeah.
on that. I'm like, well, what did I tell you to do? So
Yeah.
it can be a tremendous platform for business owners and entrepreneurs as well,
Hmm.
who are looking to connect with those B2B and B2C clients, that may be on there looking
Yeah.
for those sorts of services. We only have a couple minutes left, so why don't you share with people maybe a little bit about what you're up to in terms of helping other professionals and where people can reach out to you?
Sure. So, number one, just come connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn. I'm posting pretty much every day, most weekdays at the very least, content around lessons that I wish I had learned, ways that you can negotiate your salary, connect with others, things that you can do to take out a fire insurance policy, so to speak, on your career. Just generally the action tips around everything that we've been talking about from a philosophical standpoint in this conversation. I did share in detail some of my templates, some detailed strategies from my playbook in a course that I put together called Career Architecture. And it's only $10. I'm hosting it through Gumroad. You can go and download it. It's a video course. It is also an ebook that comes along with it. And you have access to, I think it's over 15 different LinkedIn connection request templates that I've used. to grow my connections to over 15,000 people at this point, 14,500 maybe. So I might have artificially inflated that. I'm headed to 15. It's right here on my wall to remind me. So that is something where if folks really wanted to go deeper, they could. If they wanted to sort of skip the line and get right there with me, I've got two options. You can have a 30-minute consult with me. That's for free. That's like we're talking about ideas. We're just having a good time. We're getting to know one another. We're discussing affiliate or partnership opportunities, and it's really just a meet and greet. The deeper option is a full hour, and you're reserving my time. You are paying for my time, and we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can read your bad poetry to me if you want to. It's your time. You've paid for it. We can talk about your resume. We can do a side-by-side preview of your LinkedIn profile. We can ideate on what the next step is for you in your career. We can role play a difficult conversation that you think you might need to have with your boss. We can do any number of things, and I do those things regularly with people that block
Mm.
my time in that regard. So that's a little bit about how people can get in touch with me, and I welcome any and all connection requests that come from this. I'm looking to grow as much as I can, and I'm looking to connect people as well. If you come to me and you're interested in something and I can't help you, be prepared. I'm probably going to connect you with someone in my network as well who can get you what it is that you're looking for.
Fantastic. And that's another way that I think both of us are trying to leverage
Yeah.
LinkedIn is just to add value to people and pay it forward. We've had
Mhm.
people connect us, make amazing connections for us. And so we want to do that for others as well.
Likewise.
Yeah, awesome. Seth, thanks so much for coming on today. It was awesome
Pleasure.
talking with you.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. See you.
Absolutely.